a little laugh, embarrassed with herself for getting this nervous so quickly. God, what is wrong with me? She walked over to her. What are you doing over here, sweetness?
Playing hide and seek, she said. Just playing, Mommy.
With who, for gosh sake? She fought to keep her tone in check. People were starting to stare.
With you.
She smiled so sweetly Mary could barely stand it. She bent low and whispered against her soft cheek. Ashley, you cannot run off like that, do you understand? If you can't see me, then I can't see you, okay?
Okay.
Good. Now why don't you go and try the jungle gym? Mary settled down on another bench away from the gathering storm of disapproving stares. A young mother reading the LA Times smiled over at her. Hello. You must not be from around here, Mary said, giving her a quick once-over. The woman's voice was slightly defensive. Why do you say that? First of all, no one around here is that friendly, Mary answered, then smiled. Second of all, it takes an outsider to know one. I'm a Vermonter myself. The other woman looked relieved. Baltimore, she said with a hand to her chest. I heard everyone was friendly out here in California. They stop their cars and let you cross the street, right? You don't see that in Balmer. Well, that's true. Of course, you don't see this either. She held up the front page of the Times. Hollywood murder investigation continues. Have you heard about this? The woman asked. I guess you must have. It's hard to miss these days. It just makes me so sad. I know I should be afraid, too, but really I'm just so sorry for those families. Mary nodded solemnly. I know. So am I. So am I. Isn't it awful? Those poor, poor children. It just makes you want to cry your eyes out.
Chapter 48. According to the statistics I was reading at my desk, something like 89% of known female serial killers used poison, suffocation, or lethal injection on their victims. Less than 10% of various killers employed a gun as their weapon of choice, and none I had found on record used a knife. Is Mary Smith the exception that proves the rule? I didn't think so, but I seemed to be all alone on that. I scanned the desk full of clippings, photos, and articles spread out in front of me like pieces from several different jigsaw puzzles. Eileen Wuornos was a shooter. In 1989 and 90, she killed at least 7 men in Florida. When she was arrested, the media dubbed her America's first female serial killer. She was probably the most famous, but nowhere near the first. Almost half of those on record were black widows, husband killers, or else motivated by revenge. Most had some relationship with their victims. Bobby Sue Terrell, a nurse, injected 12 patients with lethal doses of insulin. Dorothea Montalvo Puente poisoned 9 boarders in her home so she could get their Social Security checks. A secretary at the field office, Maureen, poked her head in. "You want anything from In-N-Out Burger?" I looked up and realized it was dark already, and that actually I was starving. "If they have a grilled chicken sandwich, that'd be good. And an orange juice, thanks." She laughed merrily. "You want a hamburger or a cheeseburger?" Since my sleep and personal life were something of a mess, I was trying to keep the junk food intake in check. I hadn't worked out in days. The last thing I needed was to get sick out here. I told Maureen never mind, I'd get something eventually. A minute later, Agent Page was hovering at my desk. "How's it going?" he asked. "Anything yet?" I spread my arms to indicate the breadth of information on the desk. "She doesn't fit in." Which was probably true for about half the female serial killers in history at the time of their activity, said Page. The young agent was impressing me more and more. "So what about our good friends at LAPD? Anything new from them?" "Sure is," he said. Ballistics came back on that gun of hers? Hear this. It's a golden oldie. A Walther PPK, same one every time. There's a full briefing tomorrow if you want to be there. If not, I'll cover. That was surprising news, and very odd. The age of the murder weapon. How old is the gun? Do they know? At least 20 years, which deepens the mystery some, huh? Could be hard to trace. You think that's her reason? Traceability? I asked, mostly just thinking out loud. Paige quickly ticked off a handful of possibilities. She's not a professional, right? Maybe it's a weapon she's had for a long time, or maybe she's been killing a lot longer than we think. Maybe she found it. Maybe it was her father's. All solid guesses from a rapid-fire mind. How old are you? I asked, suddenly curious. He gave me a sideways glance. I don't think you're supposed to ask that. Relax, I said. It's not a job interview. I'm just wondering. You're a lot quicker than some of the folks I see coming out of Quantico lately. I'm 26, he said, grinning widely. You're pretty good, Paige. Need to work on that game face, though. He didn't alter his expression. I've got game. I just don't need it here in the field office. Then, affecting pitch-perfect surfer speak, he said, Yeah, dude, I know what you're thinking about me, but now that my surfing scholarship fell through, I'm like totally dedicated to being here. It felt good to laugh, even if it was mostly at myself. Actually, I said, I can't imagine you getting up on a surfboard, Paige. Imagine it, dude, Paige said. Chapter 49. Around 5 o'clock the next day, the briefing room at LAPD was packed to overflowing, a suitcase with way too much crap inside. I leaned up against a wall near the front, waiting for Detective Jean Galletta to get the madness going. She came in walking briskly alongside Fred Van Allsburg from my office, LA's Chief of Police, Alan Shrewsbury, and a third man whom I didn't recognize. Jean was definitely the looker in the group, and the only one under 50. Who's that? I asked the officer standing next to me. Blue suit. Lighter blue suit. Michael Corbin. Who? The deputy mayor. He is a suit. Useless as tits on a bull. I was kind of glad to have been left out of the speechifying at the meeting, but a little wary as well. Politics were a given on this kind of high-profile homicide case. I just hoped they weren't about to start playing a larger-than-usual role here in Los Angeles. Galletta gave me a little nod hello before she started. All right, people, let's go. Everyone quieted down immediately. The deputy mayor shook Van Allsburg's hand and then slipped out a side door. Huh? What was that all about? It wasn't a guest appearance, more like a ghost appearance. Let's get the nuts and bolts out of the way first, Detective Galletta said. She quickly ran over all the common elements of the case. The Walther PPK, the children's stickers marked with 2 A's and a B, the so-called perfect mother victims, which was the angle the press was running with, of course. One nasty out-of-town paper had called the case the Stepford wife murders. Galletta reminded us that the exact wording in the emails Mary had sent to the LA Times was classified information. A few questions flew. Does the LAPD or Bureau know of or suspect any connection between Mary Smith and other homicides in the area? No. How do we know it was a single assailant? We don't for sure, but all signs indicate as much. How do we know the killer is a woman? A woman's hair, presumably the offender's, was found under a sticker at the movie theater in Westwood. This might be a good time to ask Agent Cross to give us an overview of whatever profile the FBI has going. Dr. Cross has come here from Washington, where he solved cases involving serial killers like Gary Sinigi and Kyle Craig. Something like 100 pairs of eyes shifted to look at me. I had come to the briefing as an observer, I thought, but now I was going to be put on center stage. No sense wasting the opportunity, or worse, everybody's time. Well, let me start by saying that I'm not yet absolutely convinced Mary Smith is a woman, I said. That ought to wake them up in the back rows. Chapter 50. It did, too. A ripple went through the room. At least I'd gotten everybody's attention. I'm not saying it's definitely a male offender, but we haven't ruled that out as a possibility. I don't believe you should. Either way, though, I said, raising my voice over the low rumble, there are a few things I can say about this case. I'll use she as a default for now. She's likely white and in her mid-30s to 40s. She drives her own car, something that wouldn't get too much notice in the upscale neighborhoods where the murders happened. She's most likely educated, and most likely employed, non-professional. Maybe some kind of service position for which she may very well be overqualified. I went on for a bit, then fielded some questions from the assembled team. When I was finished, Jean Galetta gave the floor over to ballistics for a gun report. Then she wrapped up the meeting. "Last thing," she said. "Colleen, sit down, please." "Thank you, Jerry. We're not done. I'll tell you when we're done." She waited for quiet, and she got it. "I don't need to tell you about the kind of ridiculous press coverage this is getting. I want everyone thinking and acting as though there's a camera on you at all times, because there probably is. Absolutely no shortcuts out there, people. I'm serious as lung cancer on that last point. SOP should be a non-issue." I noticed Galetta's eyes shift toward Van Allsburg while she spoke. Procedure had probably been the topic of their closed-door meeting with the deputy mayor. It occurred to me that this was an election year. The mayor needed a clean result on this one, and a fast one. I doubted it was going to happen that way. "Okay, that's it for now," Galetta said, and the room came alive. She caught my eye and nodded her head toward the conference room in the back. I had to push through the crowd to get there, wondering what she wanted to talk about. "How's it going?" I asked, as she closed the door behind us. "What the hell was that?" she snapped. I blinked. What the hell was what? Contradicting me. Talking about Mary Smith as a man, confusing the issue at this time. I need these people focused, and you need to keep me informed before you start reviving dead issues out of the blue like that. Dead issues? Out of the blue? We talked about this. I told you my feeling. Yeah, and we put it away. No, we didn't put it away. You did. Jean, I know you're under pressure. Goddamn right I am. This is Los Angeles, not D.C. You have no idea. I do have some idea. In the future, if you want me to present at a briefing and avoid any surprises, you should check in with me ahead of time. And try to remember what you said up there about how I caught Gary Sinigi and Kyle Craig. I tried to stay calm and even supportive with my tone, but I also wasn't going to cave because of anyone's bullying. Jean gritted her teeth and stared at the floor for a second. All right. Okay. Sorry. And for the record, I'm not saying you need to check in with me. This is your case, but with something so big and unwieldy, there's only so much control you can have. I know. She breathed a big sigh, not one of relief, more like a cleansing breath. Then Jean smiled. You know what? How about I make it up to you? You like sushi? You have to eat, right? And I promise we won't talk about work. Thanks, I said, but I'm not done for the day. Unfortunately, I need to head back to the office from here. Jean, I don't think this killer is a woman. So who is it? Some other time for a bite, okay? Some other time, Jean Galetta said. Then she walked away hastily, the same way she'd entered the conference room earlier. Chapter 51. For the next several hours, I stayed focused, one of those